So we are basically a week removed from the debut of The Saints of Newark, Sopranos story, released
Mm-hmm.
in theatrically and on HBO Max simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just say it has some mixed results box office wise, which is expected. And critically, I guess it's received well enough. But, this has been kind of a long time coming. It's been a long time since we returned to the Sopranos universe since it ended. And you being a big time Sopranos fan, you caught that original run on HBO.
Sure. Yes, sir.
Man, I just want to know, what were your expectations heading to this film, and what was your last kind of like your final thoughts as you left the theater? Because you caught it in the theaters, I saw it on HBO Max. What was your impression going into the film, and I guess what was your feelings as you left the theater?
Man. So to answer your first question, I'm gonna keep it all the way a buck with you, bro. I had very low expectations for what a movie based on an iconic TV series was capable of.
Mm.
Um, and that's not a reflection on the quality of the TV show. It's more based on the way that you view the transition from television into movies. In 2019, we had a movie that was released on Netflix called El Camino, a Breaking Bad story, which was a continuation of that TV show. Now, a lot of people were, a lot of people were not fans of that movie because it didn't necessarily capture what they were looking for. With this movie, The Many Saints of Newark, being a prequel to the Sopranos TV series, I kind of looked at it as a happy accident. I looked at it as something I'm happy that I'm getting it, but I didn't necessarily need it. You know what I'm saying? It's here.
Mm.
I'm going to
Okay.
appreciate it because it's here, but I'm not going into this with the expectations of this being better than what The Sopranos was. Walking away from it as the movie ended, I'm not even going to front on it, bro. And my
Mm.
wife worded it perfectly when we were on the way home from the theater. When the movie ended, she told me I wanted more. And the fact that I could come away from a movie that is set for a prequel to one of the top five greatest TV shows, in my opinion, wanting more from it is a victory. Um, in my personal opinion, and I think we kind of touched on this a little bit before in a prior conversation. The gangster movie genre in American cinema is all but dead and over with. I don't
Yep.
know. I don't know if it's because of social media. I don't know if it's because of so many outlets of people who are able to give interviews and provide insight as to the actual events, as to what happened during this time. But to me, I think the gangster movie genre has taken a dive because we don't take it seriously anymore. Unfortunately, in this country, we have become so desensitized to sociopathic behavior and bad things happening to people and people just being, human beings just being disgusting is the word I'm going to use here. We've come so desensitized and accustomed to people being bad people to where the gangster movie genre doesn't necessarily hit the way that it used to hit. The last gangster movie that I think was worth a damn was The Irishman, which was straight to Netflix
Hmm.
and was damn near 4 fucking hours.
That was a long ass fucking movie, man.
You know what I'm saying? Damn near 4 hours to where by the time you finished watching it, you was like, damn, I can't wait for this to be over with. Even though Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, everybody involved with that movie gave maximum effort. And that was a great movie. but it was almost 4 fucking hours, dog.
Yeah, no doubt, man. They were in their bag with that one, but it tests your limits for sure.
Oh yeah, and by all accounts, The Irishman was the end of an era. That was the end of an era in cinema from Martin Scorsese and everybody who was involved. But just to further highlight the point I want to make about the end of or the death of the American Gangster movie. This past week, while I'm at work at the VA hospital, I've been listening like Sammy the Bull Gravano, who is probably the most famous federal witness in the history of organized crime, has a podcast on Google where he's detailing, like, that sounds crazy, right?
Yeah,
That
shit.
sounds crazy. And for anybody who doesn't know who that is, just type in Sammy the Bull in a Google search and you'll know what I'm saying here. But on this podcast, this is a man who was a made man in a crime family detailing his life in Costa Nostra, right? And I think part of the reason why the gangster movie genre doesn't hold up the way that it used to in American cinema is the curtain has already been unveiled. Everything that you want to know about that particular lifestyle is at your fingertips. So for this movie to be based on a TV series inspired by the Cosa Nostra or the Italian American gangster lifestyle, it holds a certain amount of weight, but my perception going into it after looking at the trailers and seeing who was casted, I was cautiously optimistic going into this, right? Now, do you agree with that or disagree with that?
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. I mean, I think the director of the film had some very interesting things to say about the industry, the film industry, and what sells and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I won't go too further into detail with that because that's a whole conversation unto itself. But
Yes,
no,
sir.
the American gangster film is genre is for the most part it's very diminished right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like you said, that information is very accessible to anyone who does a quick search engine on anything related to the subject matter. And it's just the fact that I think people, it had its peak, it had its height, and like
Mm-hmm.
things, and just in life, everything has its circles and
Right.
everything has its pattern. We're just at that time where, like a Westerner, right? It doesn't really have that
Mm-hmm.
appeal to the American public anymore or worldwide. Let's be honest.
I agree with you. Like the general public is no longer entertained by the American gangster kind of story per se. That's my opinion on that. We're no longer like you can get on Vlad TV and see him interviewing made men who were in the mafia. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
It's a little bit too easy to have access to some of these stories of things that happened in years prior. But moving on to this movie and assessing the quality of this movie here, what I'm going to say is that the fact that this was a prequel to The Sopranos does everything to enhance the legacy of that property because I went into it expecting this to be a 2 hour summary shorthand version of what we got throughout 5 or 6 seasons of The Sopranos on HBO. And I was pleasantly surprised to learn that upon watching it, it wasn't any of that. This was a story about one particular character and how he impacted the world that we seen in these 5 seasons of The Sopranos. This was not the origin story of Tony Soprano that we all thought it was going to be. And if you look at the trailer to this movie, you would be led to believe that that is what this was going to be, right? Or wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I thought it was going to be like the origin of him per se.
And it was refreshing for me, having seen every episode of The Sopranos, that it wasn't that, because that would have been the more easy, predictable route to take and that would have been marginally less interesting. Throughout the 2 hour runtime of this movie, we see characters who are referenced and seen throughout every episode of the series on HBO. They're in the background. Everything that characters like Paulie and Sil and Uncle Junior, who we're definitely gonna address, and John Soprano and Livia and all of these characters, they're in the background. They're doing everything that you expected them to do based off of the way they acted on the main TV series. But in the meanwhile, the story of the main character of this movie is playing out in a way to where you're invested in everything that's going on. I thought that we would get more fan service than what we got, but they gave us just enough, right? To the point where my mom has never seen The Sopranos before, but watched the movie and enjoyed it, even though she's never seen a single episode of that TV show.
And I'm there with her. Same boat. Never
Never,
watched
right?
it. I didn't even know the opening theme song of the damn show.
Oh man. See, and
And
we
I
got to get
enjoyed the
it.
film.
We got to get into that too. So, addressing the actual plot of this movie here, right? I want to talk to you about the main character of this movie and Dicky Moltisanti, right? When
Right.
we talk about these gangster movies, do you feel as though the main character of this movie was he a good character or was he kind of a cipher type of character? When we talk about bad guys, it's not a secret that this gentleman here was not a good man. He was not a good character. He did things in
Mhm.
this movie that the average person would not do, right? But
Right.
overall, how do you feel about the main character of this movie and him being the point of view character for us as the audience? Because this is the first gangster movie we've ever reviewed on this podcast. So,
Right.
how do you
Right.
feel about the character of Dicky Moltisanti?
I'd have to say that he was a great character, Dicky
Mm,
Moltisanti. And the reason why is because for him being the central focus of the film, he carried it. You know what I'm saying? You were interested and you were invested in his character arc and what he was going through. If he was a bad character, I'd be like, I don't give a fuck. What's Tony up to? I want to see more of Tony Soprano. I want to see more of this character. I want to see more of that character. He could have been the Cole Young of the Sopranos universe, so to speak, you know?
Ooh.
He could have
Word.
been. He could have been, but he was a good character. And you were invested in him. He had the actors, what's the actor's name? Alessandro Nivola.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I only know him from Jurassic Park 3, which is 2001. So I know he's got a catalog of work. I know he's a good actor. I saw him like, oh, that's homeboy Dr. Grant's assistant in Jurassic Park 3. So
You got me on that one.
I recognize the actor. I know he's done work in the last 20 years, but that's the role I recognized him. But I think he did a great job with this character because, like you said, this is a character that was presented as a good guy. This is a character that was presented like, oh, well, he's not as bad as his peers. He's the best amongst the worst, right? But that doesn't
Absolutely.
exactly make him a good person.
Man.
You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? So we see this character grow throughout the film, and we see him kind of presented as, oh, he stands up for what he believes in. His father is a little bit of an abuser. You know, he has a history with women. He finds his father goes overseas to Italy, gets a new hottie, new hot young thing from the motherland, Italy, brings her back. And we see that, oh shit, well, he's Ray Liotta plays his father. Kind of a
Mm,
typical role, not gonna lie. This particular character, standard mafioso affair, right? So we know he's
yep.
an abuser. We know he's a dickhead. He's a dickwad, and eventually he's gonna
Yep.
hit his wife and do all this other shit. And he
Mm-hmm.
does. And we see Dick Moltisanti stand up for his new, basically stepmom,
Yep.
and stand up to his dad. And we see that he goes. We see that he has history. His father's had history with his mom, and it's not good history. We don't know the ultimate details of what happened to his mom, but we know it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And we see him stand up for his new stepmom, and we see this character slowly but surely transform right into the same person his dad is throughout the whole film. It's a nice slow transformation. It's not
Mm-hmm.
very like direct, you know what I'm saying? And I think a good theme of this film is like father, like son throughout this whole film. Um,
Man,
but yeah, Dick Moltisanti, he did that was a good character. And when we see the conclusion of this character, you just think there is no other way for it to go but this
man.
conclusion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like that what you said, like father, like son. I think, and this is falling into the same category here because the character that Ray Liotta plays, which is two parts, as the father of the main character and also the twin brother of the father and the uncle of the main character.
Mhm.
With Ray Liotta, we all know his most iconic role is in Goodfellas as Henry Hill, right? True. I
Right.
mean, that goes without saying.
By
Whatever.
default.
By default, absolutely. And I think that it provides a little bit of insight into the way that we view some of these organized crime figures. In every gangster movie that you can think of, excuse me, going back to The Godfather, Godfather Part 2, Scarface, Carlito's Way, Bronx Tale, whatever you want to say. These are bad men who believe they are doing the right thing. But the right thing is only right when they are serving their own purposes. They're not doing things to help out other people. The right thing only matters when you are able to get what it is that you are trying to get, and therefore you are justifying what you're doing as being right because you're trying to get to a certain point. You're trying to achieve something. You're trying to meet a certain benchmark. Well, I'm stealing, but I'm trying to feed my family.
Mm.
Or I'm doing XYZ, but I'm doing this so that eventually I can be doing something else, right?
Right.
And I think this is what the love affair is that we have with our good bad guys, such as a Tony Soprano, such as a Walter White, such as a Ghost from a Power TV series, or any other morally gray area main characters in any of these shows that we come accustomed to. Back to this movie here because I don't want to get too broad spectrum with this here. I think that the central theme of the many saints of Newark is hypocrisy.
Mm.
Hypocrisy, and what do you do when you're faced with hypocrisy, right? The racial elements of this movie are something that has rarely been explored throughout the entire series of The Sopranos. And some of the things that stick out to me, like you said, like father, like son, to me, that plays right back into the theme of hypocrisy, right? So Dickie Moltisanti kills his father because he feels his father is being a hypocrite. He's mistreating this beautiful woman that he brought from the motherland to take care of her. But instead of taking care of her, he mistreats her the same way he mistreated her mother. Okay? In
Okay.
this
Yep.
movie, in this movie, you see multiple Italian descendant immigrants from Sicily who came over on a boat or whatever, look down upon black people as if they're not actual people. The character of Junior Soprano, for example, mentions that they kill their own people. Look at how they treat their own people. That's number one. The
Mm.
character of Paulie Walnuts, who is on the main show as well, talk some bullshit to the main black protagonist Harold at the bar, right?
Right.
But the 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 female character who ends up falling in love with Dickie at the salon when she opens it up mentions how she looks up to Dionne Warwick and the way that her hair is done, right? I promise you, I'm taking notes as I'm watching this here, dog. Right?
I
So
see that,
Paulie,
man.
while he's lifting weights in one particular scene in the movie, is lifting weights watching Soul Train with Don Cornelius as the host of Soul Train while he's pumping iron. That's not a
Oh man.
coincidence. You see what I'm saying?
Nah, it's not.
It's not like he was watching any other program. He has disdain for black people, but at the same time, while he's doing what he has to do to get in shape, he's watching Soul Train while Don Cornelius and black artists of that time are performing music catered to black people. You see what I'm saying?
Right, right.
These these are very important things that I think are very subtle kind of writing that the creator of the show, David Chase, kind of put in there. You really gotta pay attention to see it. Uncle Junior, Corrado Soprano, mentions how black people will do certain things to their own people, but at the end of the movie, you see how petty and how slick this guy actually is in relation to his feelings towards our protagonist in this movie. You
Cooking,
see what
man. Keep cooking. Shit.
you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that kind of thing doesn't get put in there by accident. That's one of the underlying themes of this particular movie that I think kind of elevated above where most people look at it and think this wasn't a good movie. That is very important when you consider that at its core, this is a movie telling the story of, one character who happens to be fortunate enough to be connected to something such as Cosa Nostra and a family structure and guys that can do whatever they want to do, contrasted against a black American character that really has to fight for everything it is that he gains in this world of organized crime. I just peeped that off top because I feel like that's something that enough people aren't paying attention to. And when you
Mm.
think about it, that's a fucking haymaker right there, dog. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
man. Dude.
and and to me, that kind of enhances the actual story of this movie because you can separate that from the Sopranos TV show. The one thing that you could separate from the actual TV show is the story of Dickie Moltisanti versus Harold, the numbers runner in Newark, New Jersey, up against the backdrop of an actual event that happened. The Newark riots during the 1960s, where the police were just in the streets with tanks and the National Guard gunning down black folks. This is something that actually happened, right?
Right.
So, to me, the central theme of this movie is hypocrisy. Dickie Moltisanti tells Tony Soprano, look, hey, I know I got you these speakers. I know that they're stolen. Look, all you got to do is tell yourself this is the last time you're ever going to steal something until you do it again. And
And
then
that's
after
simple.
that,
That's it.
yep. And to me, that's where we draw the line between some of these anti-hero type characters that are indelible to film culture. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of layers to this movie that you really gotta look for in order to understand what's going on, bro. My bad. I went off on a little tangent. I'm sorry.
Nah, you're good, man. You're good. You're cooking a lot of shit, man, because I did see a few reviews on the film, and some critics were saying how the race riots and all that wasn't exactly necessary for the story and kind of
Huh?
filler. It wasn't a requirement to make the film and the story the way it was. Um, just watching it from my perspective, never being a Sopranos fan, the first 5 minutes, we see Harold chasing a kid on the street, and my first thought is, oh shit, there's black people in this movie.
Yo,
You know,
word.
I'm surprised, like, you know, and I didn't really watch any trailer. I see it. I think I saw one trailer. I didn't really look up the film. I'm like surprised, like, oh shit, they actually have some black people in this movie. Okay.
No, and that's a fact because as we're in there, I mean, fuck, bro, there was only like 10 people in the theater when we went to see it. My wife sitting next to me, she says this is the most black people I've seen throughout the whole Sopranos TV show. But again, I feel that that is significant to it wouldn't be accurate if you're telling a story about Newark, New Jersey in the early 60s, 70s, whatever time period that is, and you don't show black people in there. You know what I'm saying? That wouldn't
Nah.
be historically accurate if you're trying to capture a certain period in time where things are going on in a certain region. So
Right. Right.
on, on that end of it, I gotta give credit to whoever was involved with writing this writing the TV show and writing the movie because they got that right.
Right.
Um,
My first reaction to that was kind of like, are they jumping a little bit on the trend here? You know, with Black Lives Matter and trying to
mhm.
incorporate, you know, safely a black perspective of the movie, or if you want to use the safer term, the in quote African American experience.
And clearly, I don't feel as though that's something that they did. I feel like, oh my goodness.
I agree.
Sidebar.
I agree, man. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Like African American experience, man. Somebody who wasn't black coined that term, but whatever. Anyway, um, so I do kind of want to get into. I mean, we kind of already addressed the main character of the movie. We addressed, the backdrop to it. I want to ask you kind of about the story to this particular movie here. Do you feel like this movie told a complete story overall with everything that we kind of discussed here?
I got a sense of conclusion near the ending. It told primarily the story of Dicky Moltisanti. If
Mm-hmm.
it was primarily Tony Soprano, then no. Because obviously it would have led up to the TV series. It gave an origin to Tony Soprano a little bit, but it also gave a backdrop to the supporting characters of the original series run and this Dicky Moltisanti. It was really his. It was almost like a standalone movie of him featuring Tony Soprano and featuring the Sopranos supporting cast. Um, Simply because if it was told from another perspective, we wouldn't gotten the full picture. We got the full picture. We got the full story of this guy who thought he was doing good, who thought he was, since I'm the nicest amongst my peers, that makes me a good person. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I don't call a black guy the N word, but he's making me money, and what
Oh
I'm
man.
giving him in exchange is chump change. I don't really think nothing more of him as a tool to get money. So, oh, he's not that
Yeah.
bad. He doesn't call him the N word. And look, he's allowing him in the Italian restaurant. And oh, look,
Yep.
he's sitting with him. It's like, yeah, he's doing it for the benefit of
Yep.
himself.
Yep. But in the meantime, he's allowing his associates to belittle him.
Right.
He's telling his main squeeze, hey, don't look at him because he's insecure that his main squeeze might want to see what some chocolate tastes like. You know what I'm saying? And to me, I'm gonna keep it all the way 100 with you. We might lose some viewers here from what I'm gonna say here, but in
Go ahead, man.
2000, in the modern era, in 2021, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of motherfuckers that look at us the exact same way that Dickie Moltisanti was looking at our character of Harold. You know what I'm saying?
Oh
Yeah,
man, dude. Our
there
brother
there
got
are a lot.
shot and killed over that shit recently.
You see what I'm saying? Like that's
Yep.
some real that's some real shit here. I don't want to get too political or anything like that and take this outside of entertainment, but the way that he viewed the character of Harold, a lot of people, and I'm not even gonna put a race or a face on it, view black people, men who look like us the same way that character was viewing the character of Harold. Yeah, he's harmless because me and him have a relationship, but I'm not gonna stick my neck out for him because I'm already better than he is. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right. Here's a couple $1,000. Go ahead, leave. You already I made triple my amount. It's no
Mm-hmm.
harm done. You know what I'm saying? Reach our end of
Yep.
our term of our agreement. Oh, you're back in the area. Here's 100. You should come work for me again. Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Make me more
Yep.
money. Yeah.
And while we might have liked the character of Dickie Moltisanti in certain instances, we knew from jump you should never like a guy that murders his father, burns him alive, and then takes his side piece as his side piece while he has a wife at home.
Right.
Like you're not supposed to like that guy, even if he's the best out of the worst. You're not supposed to like him. And I appreciate the fact that this movie told us that we should not like him. You know what I'm saying? The point of view character is not always the likable character here. You know what I mean? So,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, this was a good fucking movie, bro. Like, as we talk about this and break this down, I'm viewing this as being better than it was when I watched it. But um, so my next thing that I kind of want to get into here are some of the side characters, and also I think my least favorite part of this movie here. And this is because this is coming from me as somebody who watched the Sopranos TV show.
Okay.
I feel like they might have spent a little bit too much time focusing on the relationship between Tony Soprano and his mother. Um,
Mm.
without giving away a spoiler, because I don't know if you ever plan on getting around to watching the actual Sopranos TV show.
Mm.
The relationship between him and his mother gets explored more in depth on the show because obviously, there was more time to flesh that out. I don't know if they captured the essence of the mental health issues that his mother had in relation to the way she felt about her kids and her marriage, the way that they probably needed to in order for it to make sense in the movie. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, aside from great acting by the actress Vera Farmiga, I don't know if that was something that was really necessary for this movie in particular. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
I
right.
think the relationship between Tony Soprano and his mother probably could have been saved for something to come after, but it kind of felt like that might have been tacked on a little bit just so that people who watch the show understand that his mom was always kind of a hateful, negative, toxic type of woman from day one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can feel you on that because I felt there was more character development for Tony
Mm-hmm.
and to give him a little bit more length of time on screen so you can see a little bit more of that origin of him being who he is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I never watched the original series, but I can tell from this her mental condition is a byproduct of her living condition. You know what I'm saying?
Man, highly
Um,
recommend, brother. Highly recommend.
yeah, from the treatment of her husband to that lifestyle. It's not a healthy lifestyle, and it's no you know, it's just a common sense that you live that kind of lifestyle and there's a byproduct of that for your mental health, physical health, spiritual
Mm-hmm.
health. And in most cases than not, it's going to end in tragedy for
Mm-hmm.
anyone involved. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a common thing you see with these mafioso type films is that there is no exact happy quote unquote ending for majority of people who live these kind of things, lifestyles.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Okay.
think his mom's a little bit of victim of that.
Yeah, and it's cool that we kind of got to see that, but I feel like maybe some screen time could have been devoted to other characters. For example, like we got John Bernthal portraying the father of Tony Soprano in this movie, but and he stole every scene that he was in.
Yeah,
Every
killed
scene, every scene that he was in, I was like, damn, man, like they really could have made this movie about John Soprano.
it.
And that's one of the strengths, obviously, because if they continue this later on, maybe we get more of that in the future. But I enjoyed that. But it just feels like those certain parts of it where they focused on the relationship with the mother just felt a little bit out of place with this gangster movie telling the story of a guy and his relationship with the world that he lives in, and also how another person forms a relationship with this world that they live in. That's probably the weakest part of the storyline for me personally. Um, Now, the other thing that I kind of want to touch on here, man, and I'm glad that we both got to watch this movie because this, you know what I'm saying? I'm very happy that we both got to watch this movie and kind of perceive it in different ways here. So, how do you feel about the love interest for our main character of Dickie Montasante and how she played her part in kind of affecting certain events that happened throughout the course of the movie?
The character herself, she was a pet, essentially. I'm not gonna put it in a kind word. She was a pet for
Mm-hmm.
Dickie's father. She
Mm-hmm.
was a pet for Dickie himself. You have a woman who's doesn't know the language, is brought over just for the sake of a better living. She really
Mm-hmm.
doesn't understand what's going on. She's just a beautiful piece that to display and have your way with, but not really valued as a person. And even Dickie tried to mask like he valued her more so than his father.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it was a facade. He really didn't value her in a different way than his father did. And I think she's kind of like a victim of basically, yeah, you come over and there's a rules to engagement here. You got to hook up with us. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? It's not like you can come over, I hit it, and you know what I'm saying, and it's all good, and all of a sudden you're disinterested and you can leave. That shit's not gonna happen.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So
Absolutely.
she's like under contract, so she's a little bit
Oh man.
she's a
Man.
little bit of a victim here to the whole ordeal because she had to learn English. She had to basically become accustomed to the American lifestyle, but she was not free to do what she wanted to do. She couldn't just up and pack and leave. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to Florida and make a living, or I'm gonna go here to make a living. Like, no, you're by our side. You don't have no choice but to be with me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? So she played the victim of a pet, and the actress did a good job. And I'm not gonna complain like, oh, that's a bad role or whatever. She served her purpose of the story,
Mm-hmm.
and it exposed the true nature of the characters that she was around. So I think she did a I
Hey,
think she did a bang
no,
up job on what she did and what she was presented.
that's a fact right there. And it's unfortunate because it's like you have this relatively young, relatively attractive woman who is reliant upon sociopaths in order for her to be able to advance in life. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever life she left behind in Italy or Sicily couldn't have been much better than what it was when she got off of that boat in Newark, New Jersey. And you see her basically trickle through the fingertips of one terrible human being into the fingertips of another terrible human being and ultimately meet her demise because of the situation that she was in. But she didn't have any control over that. The fact that she had a conscience and what it was that she was doing ultimately led to her demise. And that's the most unfortunate part of that character arc. You know what I'm saying? In
Yeah.
this world that these characters occupy, being a person with a conscience basically is putting an expiration date on you that comes before what it needs to come. You know what I'm saying?
Woo.
I've You know what I'm saying? Like there's
Damn.
layers. There are layers to this that I think you really gotta kind of look into here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nobody like who are the good guys in this movie? You know what I'm saying? Who are really the good guys in this movie? You're rooting for the character of Harold, right? I am
Mm-hmm.
at least because I identify with him. I'm rooting for this guy. But I'm also rooting for a guy who commits murders. I'm rooting for a guy who's a criminal. I'm rooting for a guy that doesn't want to go to work a 9 to 5, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm rooting for a guy that's cheating on his beautiful Ebony. Never mind. I'm rooting for a guy. I'm rooting for a guy that's cheating on his wife and murdering and running numbers and getting in business with Frank Lucas because he's the only guy in this movie that is morally a better human being than Dickie Moltisanti and all of these guys across the way that are a part of this thing that he could never be a part of. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, and again, that's a dynamic that is rare to a lot of gangster movies, in my opinion. Um, the next thing I kind of want to get into here, the portrayal of the young Tony Soprano, and I got some inside baseball on this that I'm gonna get to here in a minute.
All right.
But do you feel as though that character got enough screen time? You got enough insight into his upbringing and the way that he viewed this world that he was not a part of yet? Was there enough done with the character of a young Tony Soprano?
This was a little bit tricky for me because I don't actually know how Tony Soprano acts or works as a
Okay,
character.
fair enough.
So
I'm gonna
for
send you
me,
some clips.
for me, I just judging from the time spent, I can get a
Hmm.
sense that he's definitely going to grow up to be that kind of a person. Judging from what I hear and know about the show, I
Hmm.
think that they spent just enough time on him to get that seed planted where you could see, like, it's believable that this guy is going to grow up to be the Tony Soprano that we know from the TV show. It's
Hmm.
different than, let's just say, Solo, a Star Wars story. You watch that and you're like, there's no way this guy is going to grow up to be Han fucking Solo. You know what I'm saying? Or, certain characters in prequels, whatever. You're like, that doesn't add up. But for this film, I can see it. It added up to me that this guy would grow up to be a super mob boss who would, you know, kill his cousin,
Oh man,
for the benefit
man,
of himself, you know what I'm saying, or do
man.
whatever. I don't know, go to certain extents to live another day or to get the next big deal, to get that next big cash flow in his empire or whatever. So I
Hmm.
think I think they did a good job on that, judging from just being an outsider looking in. I think they did enough to implant that seed in the audience head that yeah, this is the Tony Soprano we're seeing in the making.
All right, so let's get into some inside baseball here, bruh.
All right,
You know what
let's
I'm
do it.
saying?
Let's
Let's
do
get
it.
into some inside baseball. And I mean, all it takes is a Google search to kind of confirm the things that I'm talking about. The actor who portrayed Tony Soprano as a young man, teenager, adult, is the son of James Gandolfini, who portrayed Tony Soprano on the TV series.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, of that character would look like. There's only this character that doesn't really you know what I'm saying? I might be reaching for what it is that I'm saying here, but it doesn't feel like I'm watching somebody playing a part as opposed to watching somebody really embodying the essence of a character one way or the other. And that plays heavily into a scene that comes later on into the movie. But the fact that you see what I'm saying, there's it's
I feel you,
almost
man.
it's almost hard to explain knowing that the signature role that his father played came portraying a character that you're seeing this actor for the very first time in any form of media portraying. Like the level of continuity is almost perfect. There's no drop off between the way that his father played that character and the way that he's playing that character right now in real time. You see what
Mm.
I'm saying? It's
Yeah,
two
yeah.
different it's two different actors portraying the same character in different ways, but everything makes sense and comes and forms perfectly at the very end of the movie. I have zero complaints about the portrayal of a young Tony Soprano in this movie, knowing the behind the scenes things that went on and also what went on screen. It's almost impossible. Like I highly recommend whenever you got time actually watching the Sopranos TV series just so that you can kind of grade the performance of the son and the father playing the same character. I don't
Mm.
know that in the history of cinema or TV there's ever been a father and a son portraying the same character. I don't know if that's ever happened before. You see what I'm saying?
That is pretty
So,
unique now that I think about it.
absolutely. And if this is the first time that I've ever seen that happen before, if I ever see it happen again after this, there's definitely a high benchmark that's already been set. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So, with that being said, here, I do kind of want to transition into the later parts of this movie here. When we get into Uncle Junior, now, again, you haven't seen the show. What are your thoughts on Uncle Junior Soprano, dog?
Uncle Junior, was that the bald headed one who got his back
Yes.
busted?
No respect. Zero
Oh
respect, right?
man, complete jobber. Complete jobber. Mid card at best, right?
Oh man, right?
It's shovel season for the Soprano family because they buried this man. They
Oh
buried him.
dog. Oh
Uh,
man.
Even his girl, man, like his ride or die chick, even she was like, "Ugh, you just don't want to fuck. Your back's broken, but you just don't want to fuck." I'm like, damn, he can't even
Oh,
get support from his ride or die chick. Damn,
right, right.
she could have said, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Maybe next time." Or she could have said anything, but she said that shit. I'm like, no wonder why he went all mad on Dickie. That was the tipping point. That was like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. That was it. That was it. She didn't say that to him. He, Uncle Dickie Moltisanti might have lived at the end of the film, but because she said that shit, he had to go.
She charged him up, bro. She put the she charged him up, man. Oh my goodness, dog. Like
Oh man, yep,
so
that was it. That was the spark.
so on a scale of 1 to 10, if we talking about pettiness right here, bro, Uncle Junior had to be on a 10, man. His level of pettiness had to be a 10, right?
Oh, most definitely, man. I mean, yeah, dog. Like the fact that he went through what he did, and in the end felt happy about it, got the satisfaction from it. Like,
Uncle Junior is a real piece of work, man. Like,
I can only imagine what he was like during the regular TV series.
oh man, bro. What I'm gonna say is that it was 100% in character.
Okay.
100% in character for Uncle Junior, dog. Like this man really had his cousin marked out because he slipped on some steps and fucked up his back, man. Everybody was laughing, dog. Like it wasn't like Dickie wasn't the only one that was laughing at him, man.
Right, right. But it's that jealousy, that envious. I want to be
Yeah.
the smart, the smart, wisecracking, good looking, attractive. Everybody looks up to me. He wanted
Hmm.
that spot. He wanted some respect on his name that he wasn't getting.
Man.
And he found a way to and he still probably wasn't get the respect, but it's a self satisfaction. Like, yeah, it's done. You ain't got it no more. You know.
Man. And I like that. I really do. I enjoy, and I mean, for whatever reason, I really enjoyed that part of it because I knew instantly as soon as Dickie ended up getting shot with his back turned, I knew it was Junior. I knew it. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, no doubt, no doubt.
I knew that it was Junior that was involved with that because the level of pettiness, right? Like if it was Harold, for example, or any of the black gangsters who were involved in this movie, they wouldn't have shot him in his back. You see what I'm
Mm-mm.
saying? There would have been a level, I'm not going to say a level of respect, but it would have been a level of war. It would have been a level of animosity to where he wouldn't have went out that way if it was one of his enemies that did him like that, right?
Right,
Only
right.
somebody who is close to you is going to shoot you in your back because they can't look you in the eyes when they do it to you.
Mm. Nice, man. Right
You know what
on
I'm
the money.
saying?
Right on the
I
fucking money.
I knew that it was Junior who was involved with that because that's the only way that that works, and it's in character. It's in line with the things that he said about some of these other people who he was speaking on earlier in the movie. Junior is one of the pettiest motherfuckers in the history of cinema, dog. Like, you want to talk about some heel heat? You want to talk about some heel heat? Watch the Many Saints of Newark and then watch The Sopranos and tell me Uncle Junior ain't a real piece of work, bro. You know
Oh
what I'm saying?
man, I bet. And that just seems to be a family trait of that family too,
Yep,
taking out your own family.
yep. So the next thing I want to touch on here, man, the signature scene in this movie, bro. Like,
Go ahead,
I'm
man.
the signature scene in this movie. The Many Saints of Newark is not a perfect film by no stretch of the imagination. There are only a handful of movies, in my opinion, that are perfect from beginning to end. But in my personal opinion, the final scene of this movie is the reason why you go to the theater and spend your hard earned money to watch cinema in a movie theater. To
Mm.
me, in my opinion, bro, and I can't even front on it. This scene in this movie has been on my mind for an entire week where you see young Tony Soprano in a funeral parlor looking at Uncle Dickie in the casket.
Mm.
You hear the first beats of the theme song to the Sopranos TV series. He looks down at his Uncle Dickie. You see the pinky go up. They make a pinky promise, dog. You hear those fucking drums kick in. You hear them drums. Oh
Woo!
man.
Man, what a moment.
You hear them drums kick in, and you hear the voice of Christopher Moltisanti say, "That's the guy, my Uncle Tony, the guy I went to hell for." And then it fades to black. Like, what are we talking about right now? You go to the
Man.
movies. You go to the movies for moments like that. To me, in my opinion, me and my wife are sitting in the movie theater, right? We've watched every episode of The Sopranos, and that is something that is pleasantly surprising because I wasn't expecting that. That is one of the moments as it happened that me and her are sitting there and like, okay, wow, they really just pulled that off right there. I don't want to get out of my chair right now because I want to hear the entire theme song to the Sopranos TV show because that's the connection between this movie and that TV show. Right there. Boom. You know what I'm saying?
I left you with a feeling, man. I left you with a feeling. Like even to a certain extent, for me, I never even heard that song before in my life. I'm
Mm-hmm.
watching it and I got a sense of feeling like, man, this is it. This is the creation of a fucking monster right here. That's the feeling I got. And then
Man.
once I watched the opening, you showed me the opening, it got me reflecting back to that scene. I'm like, that made the scene even better. I'm like, I can only imagine being a fan of the show, and then that scene happened. That's
Right.
a movie magic moment there that I couldn't, I even if I saw it in the theaters, I couldn't capture that because I didn't see The Sopranos. So
Right.
you got to be not even in totally in the loop, but you got to have watched at least a little bit of that source material to
Right.
grasp that moment.
But like you were saying though, even though you never actually watched the show, as you looked at that scene, you could kind of infer that this is an important moment in the life of the character of Tony Soprano.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
No
Like
doubt.
I really can't describe it. Like I said, this was not a perfect movie by any stretch, but to me, that's one of those moments that I'm not gonna forget. Seeing, because the pinky promise between a young Tony Soprano and his uncle Dickie as he's a kid ended up coming full circle as he's looking at him in his casket and imagining giving him that same pinky promise. Like, okay,
Hmm.
this is the life we chose. This is the life we chose, and it might turn out I might end up in this casket. My life might play out this way, but this is the life we chose. I'm gonna make you this pinky promise to tell you that I might do it better than you did it, but you still kind of showed me the rough. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm not even
Man.
like this is what I'm talking about right here. This is why these moments like that are why you go to the movie theater. You go to the movies in order to see moments that give you this kind of feeling here. If The Sopranos wasn't one of the best TV shows in history at all, and we didn't, all right, hold on, my bad. Let me back up for a second here,
Go ahead,
right?
man. Go ahead.
More inside baseball, brother. My bad, my bad. So if you look up the actor of James Gandolfini, right, on Wikipedia, which is not necessarily a reliable source, but you look up Wikipedia, you find online that the actor Michael Gandolfini was the one who discovered that his father passed away on vacation in Italy, right?
Mm.
And I was telling my wife this, and this is why it kind of resonated with me a little bit. I feel like that particular scene in that movie was not acting. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
To me, there's a surrealist element to that 30-second clip in that particular scene in that movie. When you understand that the actor who was portraying Tony Soprano found the man who is the real Tony Soprano, was the first one that seen that he passed away. And in this movie, he's playing this part, right? Looking at the character who basically raised that character in that casket. He didn't have tears in his eyes in that scene. It was a scene of basically being sad, but kind of having an understanding of this is where my life changes, right?
Mhm.
How realer does it get in that moment? Imagine being the actor in that moment on the set, acting out that scene. Like, what does that feel like?
Damn, man.
You know
That's some heavy shit.
what does it
Holy.
what does that feel like? I'm keeping it all the way 100 right now. Like,
Mm.
what does that feel like, right? And for me, again, with the inside baseball of watching the show and knowing how the life of the actor ended and how the son is playing that part of that character, that enhances everything for me. You know what I'm saying? That enhances everything for me. That scene in particular transcends film, cinema, and acting, in my opinion. I could be reaching with what it is that I'm saying, but that's just the way I feel about it, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Damn, man, that's a hell of a fucking statement. But that's a hell of a fact that you just mentioned. I didn't know that. I'm I'm a
Exactly.
I'm assuming the majority of the people who watch the movie doesn't know that as well.
Ex-
So it's very surreal. It's very like no wonder why you did get a feeling of yeah. You could I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but you could
yes.
definitely get a sense that that was real, so to
Ex-
speak. You know.
That's exactly, and that's the way that I felt about it. I felt that that was a real scene right there. I didn't really get the sense that there was acting that was going on there. There are so many different ways that you can kind of interpret that particular scene in that movie to where you can always go back to that. It's a 30-second clip, but you can always go back to that scene and take something away from it because of the way that the actor carried it out with a facial expression. A facial expression,
Mm.
a facial expression, no dialogue, bro. A facial expression and the opening chords to a particular song can convey so many strong feelings. And if you dig deep enough into it, it opens you up to even feeling more things as opposed to just watching a gangster movie, dog. Like,
Right.
I, I hope I'm not reaching, bro. My bad, man.
Man, nah, you in your bag right now, man. It did feel like a stamp. It felt like a
Yeah,
stamp. It felt like an end. Like, not in the sense of like a finality, so to speak, but it did feel like an exclamation mark. You know? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I almost got a sense of, like, it was almost like the end of an era. Like, a
yes,
stamp of the way entertainment is run. Like,
yep,
that was it. Like, a bygone era. Felt like the closing the door of a bygone era, so to speak, you know? That's what I got
man,
when I was first watching it.
man, and oh my goodness, bro. And what I'm gonna say is that they did a very good job with some of the background characters, right? You could watch The Sopranos now and see some of these characters that you've seen in this movie here and be like, oh, that was him. That's why he was acting like that. Oh, whatever, right? Now, I do want to ask you this question here, bro.
All
When
right.
you finished watching the movie, did you feel like there was more that could have been done? Did you want to continue seeing these characters living in this world that was presented in the movie of the many saints of Newark?
Yeah, I felt like I wanted to see more. I was very thinking like, okay, I need to start The Sopranos episode 1. Like I wanted to revisit this world. I wanted to see more of it. And I got a sense that there was more to tell
Mm-hmm.
and that TV series was it. You know what I'm saying? I felt like I need to check out episode 1. But I also feel like
Man,
almost
talk
if they really wanted to revisit this in
about
between episode 1 and this moment, they
it.
could attempt to.
Man.
But I don't know, man. That's it's it's hard to it's hard to recapture certain things, and I
Mm-hmm.
think the way they end this is a good way to have a send off for the franchise and have a send off to connect it to episode 1 of season 1 of The Sopranos. So
Oh
I
man.
did feel like they could do more, but it also felt like they shouldn't do more.
Man, oh my, I couldn't have worded that any better. I could not have worded that any better because, like, the only saving grace of this is that the creator of the actual TV show was the one that wrote the screenplay for this movie. If they wanted to do a sequel to the Many Saints of Newark and tie it into the Sopranos TV show, I'd be okay with that because
Hmm.
they handled this in a way that didn't insult the viewers of the actual TV show. I agree with that. But there is something to be said about leaving a little bit too early than leaving a little bit too late. And I think that with the gangster movie genre in general, there's a fine line that has to be met there. I think with gangster movies, even more so with action movies, there's a fine line between parody and then kind of taking it a little bit too serious. There are more bad gangster movies than there are good gangster movies. In my opinion, I don't know
Mm,
how, like, I enjoy gangster movies. My favorite gangster movies are The Godfather Part 1 and 2, Carlito's Way, Goodfellas, and then in the five spot, you can insert any other gangster movie that you want to put in there.
gotcha.
I initially thought that this Sopranos movie was leaning more into the parody type of territory where you couldn't take it seriously. I was wrong on that.
Mm,
But there's only so far that you can take this before it becomes something that you're laughing at as opposed to something that you're entertained by.
right.
It would be very difficult, and I'd be interested to see if they could pull it off. But I think it would be very difficult for them to bring back some of the same cast members that were in this movie and capture the essence of the TV show the same way that they did with this movie here. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh.
Like I'm keeping it 100, bro. You can only get
Uh,
off. You can only like one of the main like jokes within the Sopranos fandom is when Uncle Junior told Tony he never had the makings of a varsity athlete. You can only get off with that one time. You can only get off with that one time in the first movie. You can only get off with the relationship between John Soprano and Livia Soprano one time. You can only get off with that once. You see what I'm saying? If you're going to write a sequel to the movie, we need fresh material that doesn't rely as heavily on the original source material as it did before. You see what I'm saying? Like
right, right.
in a sequel, Uncle Junior can't tell Tony he's not a varsity athlete. In a sequel, John Soprano can't put a bullet through Livia Soprano's bonnet hairstyle. We need other
Mm,
things to kind of go off of. Now, I'm interested to see if they can pull that off. I think that they can pull that off. But with this genre of movies, it's too easy to lean into the stereotypical parody type of things that you get accustomed to with gangster movies. You know what I'm saying?
right, right. Damn,
The,
dude. It's
but,
tricky.
but
Tricky is it's a slippery slope. It is a slippery slope to want to continue. I have to say.
man, and what I'm gonna say is this: Did you ever see? Did you watch the Breaking Bad movie El Camino? Did you ever watch that one?
Nah, I didn't watch it. Nah.
Like, this is definitely better than that movie. El Camino, I enjoyed it, but we have to weigh our expectations versus what we actually get. And the prequel route with this movie was the best way that they could have did it. In
Yeah.
relation to another movie that I think we're gonna review in Venom with the Sopranos prequels, I think they can get away with one more. They can do one more, and that's
Ooh.
it. They
Okay.
can do one. They can do one more kind of detailing the story of John Soprano and Tony Soprano's rise through the ranks in this particular setting before it kind of jumps the shark and diminishes the legacy of the actual Sopranos TV show. They can get away with one more. That's it. Because John Bernthal did enough for me to want to see him as John Soprano again, in my opinion. He did
Oh
enough.
yeah. He did. He did. He had a good. That
And
was a good role for him. That was a good
it,
role. He fit that
it,
shit nicely.
absolutely. And I do want to see Michael Gandolfini kind of like step into the shoes of Tony Soprano for some of the mannerisms and everything that his father did in that role. But they can pull this off one more time. Overall, in my opinion, I'm gonna say that the many saints of Newark, and it's fucked up too, because I don't think we gave enough light to Dickie Montasante, but whatever, right? But overall, off the strength of the movie and off the strength of that final scene, I'm gonna say 8 out of 10, bro.
Yeah, I have to say for me as a fan, not as a fan, And me, as a casual fan of the American gangster film genre, I'd say, yeah, 8 out of 10 for me as well, man. The cinematography was beautiful. Had some
Mm-hmm.
really great, well crafted scenes, some interesting camera work. Oh man, the beach scene where Dickie killed his girl, his
Man,
side piece in the water. Oh,
brutal.
it
That
was
shit was brutal.
cold, but it was beautiful at the same time. Like
Man,
with the sun setting or sun rising, and the waves crashing on him, and the way he just absorbed that what he just did.
man,
It was like beautiful horror, so to speak. Like it
man,
looks pretty, but it's ugly what just transpired. You know.
man,
Um,
man, man.
yeah, man, it was a really well crafted film. I have to say, very well crafted film. I want to see more. The setting, the period was perfect. There was nothing about it that screamed, "Oh, that wouldn't be there." You know what I'm saying? Or this
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be there. Very, I think, very authentic, and I think that this one's gonna age like fine wine. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
hopefully later on, it can get the appreciation it deserves, and maybe it can find that group of people who want to check it out.
Yep.
8 out of 10, man.
My last word on this here, brother. I'm just gonna say I think that Warner Media dropped the ball on this one. If there was any movie that came out this year that should have gotten a legitimate theatrical release, it should have been this movie right here. The last thing that they should have done is release this movie on HBO Max the same day that it came out in theaters, because clearly this movie was made with the intention on kind of like doing everything they could do to establish itself as separate from the TV series. And the fact that this movie is streaming on the same app as every episode as the TV series is to its detriment. Warner Media should have called the audible and decided, you know what, we need to pull the plug on this. This is a movie that you're only going to be able to see in theaters. Suicide Squad was always going to make money. The Matrix, more or less, might make money. I still have a certain feeling about that as well. But King Kong versus Godzilla was going to make money. This was a movie that needed a theatrical release in order for people to understand why it was made. You know
Right,
what I'm
right.
saying? And the American gangster movie genre is all but dead, period. The closest thing that you're going to get to an American gangster story is Snowfall on FX. But that's a great TV show, but we'll get into that on another date. 8 out of 10, The Many Saints of Newark. I will be watching this movie again. The final scene of this movie was fucking magical. I'm not even gonna get into the fan service parts of it because all you got to do to understand that is watch The Sopranos, and I highly recommend anybody who has the time and availability to watch The Sopranos. Like, share, and subscribe. Let us know how you feel about this movie.